Boy, we're going to wrap up the week with more wild weather. Pop-up showers and thunderstorms expected through the afternoon and the evening. We'll break that down as well as your eastern forecast. KHQ Local News at 5 starts right now.
Celebrating 60 years of covering the Inland Northwest, your official home of the 2012 Summer Games. This is KHQ Local News at 5.
And this is a live picture of the roaring Spokane River, right now running high, running fast, and dangerously cold. Good evening, I'm Dave Cotton in for Dan and Steph. Right now the Spokane River running at about 25.8 feet. That is still more than a foot below flood stage. The river, though, is still very dangerous. And this morning we saw another example of what a fast-moving river can do. Spokane fire crews responding to a river rescue early this morning near Mission and Norton. And right now Katie Steiner joins us with the details on that. Katie, good evening.
Good evening, Dave. You can see how high the Spokane River is and how fast it's going. And that's where the fire crews did rescue that man early this morning. They don't know how long he was in the Spokane River, and we don't know why he was in the river, but luckily they did get to the man in time and pulled him out of the water. He wasn't making a whole lot of sense during the rescue. The assistant fire chief told me that he had a, quote, altered state of consciousness, end quote, and kept yelling at the rescuers and saying that he had another person with him. However, they don't think that was very credible information just because of the state of mind of that man at the time, and they did look for another person for a bit of time, but they couldn't find anything. The man was taken to Sacred Heart Hospital. Now, coming up at about 6 o'clock, I will be showing you exactly how cold this water actually is. Reporting live in Spokane, Katie Steiner, KHQ Local News.
All right, Katie, and rescuers were forced to deal with dangerous waters as well as cold temperatures. Right now, waters, as we mentioned, moving high and fast due to last month's record rainfall. But we still have to consider snow up in the mountains. And KHQ Local News reporter Chelsea Kopta is live now to explain the fallout. Chelsea, good morning, or good evening.
Hi, good evening, Dave. Well, there is definitely some runoff from the mountains, and it's why hydrologists say this water here in the Spokane River is so cold. Just take a live look at the falls right now. You can just see it gushing at thousands of cubic feet per second. Now, at this point, the snowpack is just above average, about 30% higher than normal. If you've been skiing recently, you would notice that there is still a lot of snow in the mountains because we've had a cooler, wetter spring. The National Weather Service says there is a probability the Spokane River could flood this spring, but unless there's another big rainstorm or a big heat wave, the effects will probably be minimal in the Spokane area.
For the Spokane River, it's not a big concern. Even when it does flood, most of the impacts are just over roads and stuff. What I am concerned about is more the smaller creeks and streams that we don't forecast, and that's because they've all been having problems, which is the same thing.
The hydrologist also says the majority of that snow will melt and pass through the Spokane River next month in May, but we should be seeing temperatures warm up this weekend, which could definitely affect that runoff. But Leslie Lowe should be able to tell you all about that. Isn't that right, Leslie?
Yeah, Chelsea, and you know, that is such good information that we've gotten from both you and from Katie, because those rivers, all of them running high and running fast and very, very cold out there. We do have some changes on the way, and we'll break that down in a second. But right now, let's take you on over to HD Doppler 6, because I do want to show you what's happening out there right now. We do have some showers and we do have some thunderstorms. This is what we refer to as pop-up showers and thunderstorms, because they're kind of like popcorn. They pop up here, they pop up there. And what we're seeing right now is some thunderstorms. Well, they're starting to die down now to the north of us. We have seen a little bit of activity for areas just north of Deer Park into Colville, Omak. Not much as far as activity goes, maybe just a couple of lightning strikes. However, this is a major concern as we head into this season. We start to see warmer daytime heating in the afternoon. That's the fuel, that convective fuel that we need to fire up those thunderstorms. You can see just south of I-90 around Othello, we're seeing a little bit of lightning, 1 or 2 lightning strikes to be exact. These will die down as we head into the overnight hours. When we lose that daytime heating, that's when we lose that ability to see those showers and thunderstorms fire up. So we'll really watch for those to collapse. The good news with this is as they do collapse tomorrow, we're going to look for much nicer weather with temperatures jumping into the 50s. That's a concern in its own, because we will start to see that snow melt off, 50s and then 60s as we head in towards the next couple of days. days. We'll talk more about that, the potential for snow melt-off and people jumping in the water. Dave, you know, this time of the year it gets warmer and people want to get in and it's just too cold.
Not a good idea, right? Thanks a lot, Leslie. Well, Spokane police tell us that they've arrested a man wanted in an East Central neighborhood shooting that injured 2 people, including a 6-year-old girl. You may remember this man. Police say Abu Samura turned himself in, and he's now behind bars at the Spokane County Jail. Police say Samura shot 2 people last month in some sort of gang incident. One of his victims, a 6-year-old girl. The Spokane Violent Crime Gang Enforcement Team told us that leads from citizens really helped with their investigation. A few developments tonight in the ongoing Bonnie Lake murder investigation. We learned today the Whitman County Sheriff's Office has now identified a 4th suspect in connection with the shooting of 23-year-old Marcus Schur. Deputies found Schur's body last week in Bonnie Lake, that's just south of Cheney. Investigators say they think he was murdered in late December. 36-year-old Eli Lindsay of Washtenaw is the newest suspect in the murder. Police say he helped Frank and Daniel Lascano cover up that murder. Right now, Lindsay is not in police custody. Meantime, Lauren Carlin, another suspect whom police say helped cover up the murder, pleaded not guilty today and will be in court on June 18th. The Lascano brothers have also pleaded not guilty. They'll be in court on June 4th. Looking ahead to Monday, booster shots and immunizations for whooping cough will be made available to residents in Washington. State lawmakers warn this is one of the worst years in decades in the number of diagnosed cases. More than 640 cases reported so far this year. According to lawmakers, a clinic will be held in Olympia as a way for lawmakers to set an example for the public, including families with babies. A big story we're continuing to follow. More developments in the trial of Officer Carl Thompson. New paperwork has been filed, further backing up why the government thinks Thompson does not deserve a new trial. 150 pages of newly released paperwork is mainly centered around one man, Grant Fredericks. Fredericks was the government's expert video witness, but he never actually testified. Fredericks has recently come forward saying he was concerned about the trial because he says Thompson may not have hit Otto Zem with a baton. And now the defense is asking for more time to respond. They'll have until April 16th to do so. To North Idaho now, if you choose to text behind the wheel, you'll now be breaking the law. Governor Otter has signed a bill banning texting while driving. Republican Senator Jim Hammond from Coeur d'Alene sponsored this year's bill. Now, the new law makes texting while behind the wheel a secondary infraction. That means that you can't be pulled over just for texting. There has to be some other moving violation. The new law takes effect July 1st. Well, a truck fire at the Flying J Travel Plaza west of Spokane had area fire crews busy earlier today. It happened around noon at the Flying J Travel Plaza parking lot. Witnesses say the fire was quite a sight as it grew in size.
Huge. It was, at first it just started small and then it got really billowing. And then you couldn't even see the flames because the smoke was so bad.
Now, no injuries were reported. We are told the driver was not in the cab, fortunately, when the fire broke out. There's no word on what caused the fire. Nationally tonight, we first brought it to you live on our 10 a.m. news break on KHQ.com today. A Navy F-18 fighter jet crashing into a densely populated area in Virginia Beach, Virginia. As you look at the devastation, there are no deaths reported on the ground, but officials say they still have not accounted for all of the residents. Both pilots were able to eject safely. At least 5 apartment buildings were gutted by the crash or the fire that followed. The fighter jet went down just blocks from the Atlantic Ocean moments after takeoff from nearby Naval Air Station Oceana.
It was an F-18D, which is a 2-seat strike fighter.
I looked up and I could see the plane going straight up with no sound of engines, and then I seen it pitch over and go down.
As we said, both pilots ejected safely. They were taken to the hospital with only minor injuries. In fact, 8 of the people hospitalized, of those 7 have already been released. Well, as we continue here on KHQ Local News at 5, I want to let you know that coming up at 6 o'clock, the catch of the day, an unwelcome species.
For fish managers in the state of Washington, pike probably is a 4-letter word.
Northern pike, a predatory fish, becoming a problem in Pend Oreille County. Fish managers say an increasing pike population is killing all the other fish in the area, forcing them to take action. KHQ's Mike Perry will have the details coming up at 6 o'clock. Well, the final steel beam for WSU's newly renovated Martin Stadium has arrived in Pullman. Here's a picture from Twitter of the beam arriving. WSU officials say the improvements to Martin Stadium will enhance recruiting efforts for WSU athletics. By the way, the home opener for Mike Leach and the Cougs, mark your calendars, Saturday, September 8th against Eastern Washington. And don't forget the Cougs spring game, April 21st here in Spokane at Joe Albee Stadium. We will carry that live on SWX. Still ahead on KHQ Local News at 5 o'clock. The last ski weekend for some area ski resorts. Coming up, we'll check in with Mount Spokane's Brad McCory to find out what conditions are like there. And it's a big holiday travel weekend, and coming up, I'll run down some of the best places to fill up before you head out.
Tonight, the latest on the terrifying crash of a Navy jet in Virginia Beach and news on American jobs on NBC Nightly News.
And after another night of active weather, we are set to dry out and warm up. How warm is it going to get? I think you're going to like it. All those details coming up after the break. We'll see you then.